Ever get that feeling? Like you just can't escape someone and their name's everywhere you look. Well, today we're kind of diving into that, but, on like a national scale.
Yeah.
You shared some pieces on how former President Trump is all over the headlines and how this constant presence it might be a strategy. I mean, it's got to be on purpose, right?
Right. It's fascinating. We're just drowning in information these days. And so the fight for attention, well, it kind of becomes the fight for actual influence. It's not just being in the news cycle. It's about setting the agenda, controlling the narrative.
Okay, so it's not just that Trump's name is out there. It's more that he's like dictating what we're all talking about.
Exactly.
And this CNN piece, it lays out all the different ways he's doing this. We're talking news conferences, those surprise announcements, his Truth Social, the whole thing. It's a nonstop stream.
And that's the point. It's very deliberate. There's a whole body of work, actually, on how some call strongmen, these kind of leaders, how they use this idea that you got to be powerful and you got to be everywhere all the time, like you're in control.
Okay, sure. I get that. But wouldn't that be exhausting? I mean, to be on all the time. Like even celebrities, the ones that love the spotlight, they take breaks, right?
Sure.
What's the psychology of this need for constant attention?
Well, Chris Hayes, in his book, The Siren's Call, he gets into this.
Yeah.
He makes the case that for someone like Trump, needing attention, even the bad kind, it's almost like, well, bottomless. It's not just ego. It's a deeper psychological thing.
So even the negative stuff, it like fuels him.
Yeah.
So those folks criticizing him are actually, they're playing right into his hands.
That's the argument.
Whoa. That's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah. And it brings up this huge question. Is all this attention actually giving Trump real power? Or are his critics just giving him exactly what he wants by always focusing on him? This debate's been going on forever, it seems.
It has. And his team, they seem very aware of this debate. Like they're leaning into it. The article it even mentions how excited they were about a headline that said, Trump is everywhere again. They see it as a win.
For sure. They understand the value of just being seen, especially in today's crazy media landscape. But there's another layer here. It's not just staying relevant. It's about changing the Overton window. Like what ideas are acceptable to talk about.
Wait, hold on. Can you break down that Overton window thing a bit more?
Yeah. So imagine a window. This window frames what's considered, normal when we talk politics. By pushing the limits all the time, bringing up these extreme ideas, someone like Trump, well, he can slowly shift that window. Stuff that was once like unthinkable, well, it starts to seem more mainstream.
That's wild. So it's not just about the attention itself. It's about using that attention to change how we think about certain issues. It's like a long con almost, but on our culture.
That's a good way to put it. Tyler Cowen, he's an economist who's written about this, calls it flooding the zone. It's like you overwhelm everyone with so many cultural battles that it's hard to even keep up. Never mind actually resist how things are shifting.
Okay, yeah, I see how this is way bigger than just being in the news. But let's go back to some specifics. This Super Bowl thing, was that just him wanting attention again, or was it something more strategic?
It's the Super Bowl, the biggest stage in America, maybe the world, this massive cultural event. By showing up, Trump tapped right into that audience, and it projected this certain image, almost like, a king surveying his kingdom.
That's true. And it made for some interesting comparisons in the media. Biden skipped the pregame interview last year, so it felt even more deliberate on Trump's part. But what was he going for? What was the message?
Some say it was all about that strongman image we were talking about, showing his power, his connection to everyday Americans, even folks who might not typically support him.
And there's even that thing from Clay Travis. He's this big conservative commentator, huge with sports fans, right? He's talking about a vibe shift, saying more people in the NFL are like warming up to Trump now. But didn't a lot of athletes really push back on him in 2017?
They did. So that makes you wonder, is him being at the Super Bowl, is that a sign that his influence is still strong? Or is this just, a calculated move to stay relevant, maybe appeal to some new people?
It's a good question. It's kind of funny when you compare Trump's approach to Biden's. Trump's out there, grabbing all the headlines, but Biden, he's much more traditional. Keeps it low key.
Yeah, it's like night and day. You could go days without even hearing Biden's name in the news, but with Trump, it's constant. But does that even matter? Does that actually equal real power? Or is it all just about, keeping his name in the headlines? It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's like one of those magician's tricks. You're so busy watching the spectacle, all the flash and bang, that you might miss the real moves happening, behind the scenes.
Okay, I'm hooked. How's this magician's trick thing work with what Trump's doing?
Think about it. While everyone's freaking out over his latest tweet or some, outrageous comment, he's subtly shifting the entire conversation. He pushes the boundaries of what we even think is acceptable to talk about in politics. It's like he's normalizing his own brand of politics.
So he's playing the long game, huh? Gradually changing how we see what's normal in politics. That's a little creepy, if you ask me.
It can be, and it's something we got to pay attention to because once those lines get moved, it's hard to push them back. We get used to a certain level of chaos,
Hmm.
a certain level of division, and it starts to feel like, well, this is just how it is now.
But doesn't that, backfire at some point? Alienating a big chunk of people, doesn't that limit how much power he actually has?
Oh, absolutely, there's a risk. And I think that's the big test for Trump. Can he take all this attention and turn it into results? Can he actually deliver on his promises and, mend some of the divides he's created? Or is this need for attention gonna, blow up in his face?
That's the big question. I mean, it's no secret he loves media attention. He's been doing it forever, even before he got into politics.
hmm
But is it just ego, or is there something more going on?
Some scholars say it goes deeper than that. Ruth Benjiech, she studies authoritarian leaders, and she talks about how strong men often try to create this aura of being everywhere at once. They want to be seen as, omnipresent, almost like a godlike figure watching over everything.
Well, that's an image. So
Yeah.
Trump being all over the media, it's not just about him then. It's about projecting a certain image of leadership, one that appeals to a specific group of people.
You got it. And that image, it can be really powerful for folks who feel like the system's failed them. People looking for a strong leader to shake things up, to restore order.
But isn't that kind of dangerous, that kind of thinking? I mean, history's full of those charismatic leaders who take advantage of people's fears, their anxieties, for their own benefit.
Right. And that's why it's so important to be critical of the stuff we read, the stuff we watch. We got to question the motives of the folks who are, vying for our attention. Just because someone's loud and in your face all the time doesn't mean they're on your side.
So what can we do? Are we just stuck in this whirlwind of attention grabbing and political games?
Not necessarily. We have a choice in how we consume information, how
Yeah.
we, participate in all this political stuff. We can choose to focus on what really matters, on facts over spectacle, on unity over division.
So how do we do that? How do we actually become smarter about the information we take in? Especially these days when it feels like we're getting hit with news from every direction.
Well, I think it starts with just being aware, recognizing that there's this constant fight for our attention going on. And once you see it, you can start making, more conscious choices about what you let into your head.
Like we got to be on some kind of attention diet or
Yeah.
something, being careful about what we read, what we watch, all of it.
I like that. An attention diet. Yeah, it's about quality over quantity, being picky about who and what you let influence your thinking.
So it's not about ignoring the news, right? It's more about being more critical about what we consume.
Exactly. Asking yourself, who's giving me this information? What's their deal? Are they trying to help me understand something or are they trying to play me? Because let's be real, there are a lot of folks out there who want to take advantage of our attention for their own benefit.
Yeah, that's true. And with these social media algorithms, feeding us stuff we already agree with, it's easy to get stuck in our own little bubbles.
Big time. You end up just surrounded by stuff that confirms what you already think, and it's hard to see the bigger picture.
So how do we break out of those bubbles? How do we see other points of view?
It takes effort. You got to actively look for different sources of information, read articles, books, that kind of stuff that challenge what you think you know, talk to people who disagree with you. It can be uncomfortable, but it's how you learn to think critically.
So this isn't just about knowing more stuff. It's about being, better citizens, people who can think for themselves and make good decisions.
You got it. And remember, being engaged, it doesn't have to be, yelling and arguing all the time. It can be just having thoughtful conversations with your friends, your family, sharing an article you found interesting, or, volunteering in your community.
It's like taking back control of our attention. It's not just good for us, it's good for our whole, democracy thing.
100%. When we're constantly freaking out about the latest drama, it's hard to focus on the big problems, the long-term stuff. We need to be able to step back, think clearly, and, actually talk to each other if we want to make things better.
Man, this deep dive has been eye-opening. It's made me realize that we have way more power than we think when it comes to, like, shaping the whole information landscape.
We do. And I hope, I hope folks listening will start paying more attention to their attention and engage with, with everything out there with a critical but open mind.
So to wrap things up, I want to leave everyone with this thought. In a world where information is, like, everywhere, the fight for our attention, it's intense. But we don't have to just sit back and take it. We can choose what's important to us. We can be critical of what we see, and we can be part of, a smarter, more engaged society.
Well said. It's a good reminder that we all have a part to play in building the future we want.
And on that note, we'll let you go think about all this. Don't forget to check out the show notes. We've got links to all the stuff we talked about today. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that subscribe button for more explorations into, the stuff that really matters. Till next time, keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.